welcome to Mindset, Money, Success. And I'm your host, Loraine Marshall. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different to my normal podcast. What I'm going to do is to look at a book that I wrote in 21 to 2022 and just read out a couple of sections from that book. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm about to launch a new book in 2026, and that book is called After the Discard, No Divorce Required. And this book is going to talk about the reality of post-separation abuse and expose systemic failures that enable that type of abuse. And so while I'm going through this launch period and working things out, I have connected Buy Me a Coffee to the podcast channel and to the YouTube channel. And anyone who has already donated to my podcast through Buy Me a Coffee, I'm extremely grateful for every donation I've received. And if you are able to donate, the link will be in the show notes of the podcast and also below the video. So what I'm going to go through is the book that I actually wrote under a pen name from April of 2021 to May of 2022, and published it under a pen name, Loraine Marshall. Now, the whole relationship was basically a manipulationship, but I didn't understand and I didn't realize what was going on until after the discard. And I did educate myself with various videos and articles that I went through, and then that's how I understood and began to realize that the whole relationship was fake and false from the very beginning. And so I'm wanting to actually just read out a section from that first book, which I titled Post-Separation Abuse, Betrayal and Abandonment, What Type of Man? So I'm going to go back to 2018, and it was after I had been told that he was having an affair. He'd confessed he was having an affair, and I was going through some emotional turmoil. So this section is called Killing Myself Slowly, Maximum Damage, Maximum Hurt. When a guy that you're married to or in a relationship with intentionally inflicts emotional distress by confessing something that he knows will cause you pain and suffering and grieving. He knows that it will cause you stress, anxiety and trauma. He was straight with me. The panic attacks and the trauma afterwards were real enough. The betrayal, the sleepless nights, the worry and stress of my situation, that experience was real enough. Perhaps I should have acted on my idea of counselling or therapy at the time that I was going through this trauma in 2018. The question is, what qualifies as intentional infliction of emotional distress? What is anguish? Anguish is often referred to as emotional distress that can encompass a number of different emotions, such as trauma, grief, sorrow, fear, and anxiety. But simply put, anguish can refer to being in severe pain, and it is important to note that anguish can be mental and physical. It is reasonable, typical, and even rational response to a horrible situation. Someone may experience anguish when going through a divorce or through loss of a loved one. These examples of grief have potential to wreak havoc on your well-being. A traumatic event can change you as a person, especially if anguish goes on for long enough. What is the definition of abuse? To use or treat so as to injure or damage. Or maybe this definition: any action which intentionally harms or injures another person, not just physical, but also intentional infliction of emotional distress, which causes psychological damage. So what is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse is a way to control another person by using emotions to criticize, embarrass, shame, blame, or otherwise manipulate another person. In general, a relationship is emotionally abusive when there is a consistent pattern of abusive words and bullying behaviors that wear down a person's self-esteem and undermines their mental health. Emotional abuse is one of the hardest forms of abuse to recognize. It can be subtle and insidious, or overt and manipulative. Either way, it chips away at the victim's self-esteem and they begin to doubt their perceptions and reality. The underlying goal of emotional abuse is to control the victim by discrediting, isolating, and silencing. Forgiveness. This is how I remained calm over the past weeks, discovering he went on holiday with the other woman was the final blow. I discovered that I was hurting more than I wanted to be hurt. I was killing myself slowly. The pain, the anguish I suffered due to the decisions he was making, I was so upset and disappointed. I repeated to myself, I'm not angry, I'm not resentful, I'm not fearful. I was listening to a lot of personal development during this period of my life, and I used the following statements to help myself and calm my mind. Forgiveness is my way forward. I have been saying these statements out loud most days. I have forgiven you for your infidelity. I have forgiven you for your angry outbursts towards me. I have forgiven you for your hurtful words and actions. My tip: don't carry anger and resentment. Keeping these emotions inside of you can make you unhappy, frustrated, and helpless, and they can actually make you physically ill. Here's a quote from Nelson Mandela. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. Why does he say that? What did he say in the telephone call, in that conversation where I pressed record on my iPad? Because he started going off into a rage again, and I dared to voice my opinion on how I was feeling. Oh yes, that's right, he told me. I've made you dependent on me, it's my fault. I've made you dependent on me. Philip's an evil bastard. Now in January 2018, he started paying money into my business account. Why? I never asked for any money. I was happy to try and earn my own income by looking at how I might start an online business venture. One of my goals has been to have an online business that keeps me financially secure. But in January of 2018, just after his Wednesday girl confession, he sat me down and told me, this is what is going to happen. So before he left for the UK, he started to pay nearly £700 a month into my UK business account. I suppose I was still in shock from what he had told me just 2 weeks before. Whatever his motive for paying me this money, it was not so that I could pay towards property's running cost, which is what he had told me it was for. Why? Because I could not make payments. Most of the monthly running costs were on direct debit from his Spanish bank account. Some months later, around April of 2018, after driving him to Alicante airport so he could return to the UK, I called him on the phone to again try to have a conversation, only to be greeted with him going off in a rage. And there was me apologising again for thinking I had upset him because I dared to call him on the phone, wanting some clarity and answers. So when I'm saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you," he replies, "Yes, you bloody well did. What was it designed to do if it wasn't designed to bloody upset me?" And then I told him how I felt, because he had this other woman who he wanted to keep meeting in the UK, and he told me that I should be grateful for everything that I have and where I am, because I have this lovely place to live and I can stay there, and he is sending me money. Only I'm confused because I'm receiving mixed messages from him. He told me in another conversation, perhaps after he had drunk too much alcohol or consumed other substances, when he angrily shouted at me, saying, "I'm throwing nearly £700 a month at you." That's right, the money that he decided to pay me that I never asked for. Then he throws this back in my face, and I'm left feeling like some kind of inferior person. And still, I apologise, saying, "Okay, I'm sorry." Then he tells me, "It's more money than you get from anywhere else. The lovely businesses that you've been developing, what are they producing?" And when I reply that they're not producing anything, he interrupts me to say, "Then don't fucking knock the money that you get. Don't fucking bite the hand that's fucking feeding you." And I still say, "I'm sorry." So he goes on to tell me how I'm feeling. "You're upset because you've made some bad decisions, and what you're doing is trying to make me feel emotionally responsible for your bad decisions, as if it's my fault that I've made you dependent on me. It's my fault. You were a strong, powerful, independent woman till I came along and made you into what you are now." And I say, "No." And he continues to rant, "I've made you dependent on me. It's my fault that I've made you dependent on me. Philip's an evil bastard." And I say, "I haven't said that." Apparently, he can hear it in my voice when I'm talking to him. He says, "No, no, I can hear it in your fucking voice." What a strange thing to say. So again, I tell him, "I haven't said that. When did I say that? I haven't said anything about that." And he just goes on. This is exactly why we shouldn't be having conversations like this, either A, on the phone, or B, on the way to the fucking airport, on the way home. You've had plenty of time to have conversations, and then you choose not to. So in my head, I'm saying, why? Why do I choose not to have these conversations? So he then told me he had to ring his missed call back because it was more useful to him than talking to me on the phone. And I still apologised, saying, "I'm very sorry that you were angry with me." He talks over me, telling me, "It's going nowhere. It never could go anywhere. 'Cause we're on the bloody phone, it can't go anywhere. This kind of conversation can't work on a fucking phone. Why don't you understand that?" I try to say because, but he continues to talk. "Why is it? Look, you've fucking upset me now. I'm going. I'll talk to you later." And then he hangs up. This was 2018. And I didn't understand in 2018 that all of what I had experienced was actually emotional and psychological abuse. He had introduced this woman into the relationship as a devaluation tactic. I didn't even understand the devaluation tactic at that time. I understood that through life, in families, there is people who cheat and lie. I experienced it as a child, and that's why my parents divorced. And I know other people who were neighbours who had similar things happen, where someone has cheated, but that relationship continued. They didn't divorce. The only problem is with that type of thing is the emotional well-being of one party can end up being eroded completely. And when that happens, your emotional vibration actually spirals downwards. And when you get to certain states of low vibration energy, that is when your body can physically break down. Your emotional state is already impacted. You could be having sleepless nights, you could have anger issues, resentment issues, fear. There's lots of other negative things going on, but the full impact of someone who has cheated, who has lied, betrayed, where your trust has been broken, and you stay in that relationship, your physical well-being can be impacted because sustained amounts of stress and trauma and anxiety changes your internal system, basically. People often suffer from cancers, stomach issues, and heart problems. I've seen it happen. And I know how difficult it can be. So this is one of the reasons why I am now putting together a story from my lived experience, but also exposing all of the systemic failures that I have been through and many other women actually experience as well. And I will be launching this book in 2026. Alongside this, I'm creating a private group, community for other women who need help and support going through the traumas of the post-separation abuse or the emotional and psychological abuse, so that we come together as a community and we can help each other and support each other. Now, this will be a paid group for a low fee, a low monthly fee. Now, anyone who is listening to this podcast episode or the video who is interested in such a group, then what I need you to do is register for the launch of the book, which is After the Discard, No Divorce Required. And I will be able to notify of the launch date and notify of the creation of this private group. So this has been my podcast episode this week, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will be talking about different subjects moving forward as I really look at where I am at now and how I'm now coming out of all of the fog that I've been in, all of the confusion that I've been in, and actually putting my real story out there to show that I have been through what most people may not actually survive, because of the overlapping litigations, the eviction attempt, the criminal defamation, and the criminal allegations, where I had 17 years of prison hanging over my head from 2022 to 2024. And then when all the criminal allegations were dismissed, I still had eviction hanging over my head. And I was still being manipulated financially throughout 2025. And all of this is the subject of my next book. And I hope that it will be well received this time and not sabotage like my last book was. So thank you, everyone who's been listening to the podcast over the last couple of years. And if you really want to help, like I say, I have linked Buy Me a Coffee in the podcast, and it'll be in the show notes and also under the description of this video podcast. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.